My name's David Caldwell, and with almost 2 decades of experience in the Portland metro area real estate market and a passion for data-driven insights, I'm here to bring you the latest trends, advice, and stories from the world of real estate. Whether you're buying, selling, or just love staying informed about the market, this podcast is your one-stop source for expert insights and personal perspectives. So let's dive in and ask the all-important question: how's the Portland real estate market? Hey everybody, we're back with the most interesting, boring, pragmatic view of the real estate market. We don't just go on this YouTube video and talk about how great the real estate market is and how it's always a great time to buy or a great time to sell. We're going to break down the actual numbers of the Portland housing market. We're going to sprinkle in some opinions. My name's David Caldwell. I'm here with Jennifer Schwinghammer. I'm a principal real estate broker. She's a real estate broker. We are with a team called Hillshire Realty Group in Portland. We've been doing this thing for a long time. So we're going to ask each other some questions. Hopefully you will find this really informative if you are thinking about entering the housing market in the Portland metro area, or if you're just curious. As always, if you have questions, leave them in the comments, concerns, email us, hello@hillshirerealtygroup.com. But let's get into it. So let's start where I think everyone wants us to start, or at least it's where I want to start. When people ask, how's the real estate market? I think they're asking, what is happening with home values? So April, there was a bright moment in the housing market in April, which is that the average sales price during the month of April, if you're a homeowner, was $618,900. And that is much higher than the average we have seen year to date. Year to date, the average sales price in the Portland housing market is $591,200, which is down just slightly from what we had averaged in 2023. We finished the year with the average sales price of $598,000. So we have been seeing some positive momentum in sales price. If you're a homeowner, if you're looking getting into home ownership, that consistent appreciation is one of the valuable things that you get from being a homeowner. If we zoom way out, the last 25 of the last 30 years in the Portland housing market, we've seen appreciation. We've only had 5 years where things have gone backwards, one of which happened in 2023. That was a lot. Yeah. Break in here, Jen. I just threw a lot of numbers out.
I'm just listening too.
So, a second ago, Jen goes, when I'm looking at these numbers, things seem positive.
Yeah, things are, pending sales are up, closed sales are up. Things look like, it's starting to kind of roll and things are happening. But is that really what's happening? Or or is that not really what's happening?
Well, that's a good question. And we will get to all those things. And one of the reasons we don't look really at month over month, we look at the last 12 months, or we look year to date, so we can really see trends. Lots of people, when they're listing their home for sale, they want to look at the one good comp and ignore the 2 bad ones. Or they want to look at the 2 good comps and not acknowledge the bad one could come into play. We want to look at the good months, but we want to ignore the bad ones in the year. That's why we look at the last 12 months, or we look at year-to-date trends. And what I have found in selling real estate since 2007 is that the trends repeat themselves as long as the economic factors are similar. So let's talk about mortgage rates real quick. In the beginning of the year, most people in this industry were saying we were going to see 3 to 6 rate cuts. Well, Jerome Powell suggested that could happen, but it was never promised. And by the way, we have not seen that. We figured, I think the end of last year, we thought we would have interest rates closer to 6.5%, 7% for the duration of this year, which is what actually has been playing out, because the economy is stronger, weaker than people think. Who knows? But what we know is that today rates are about 7.25%. I would expect things to play out pretty similar to 2023 if interest rates stay in that 7% plus range or 6.5% plus range. And when we get to pending sales and closed sales, we are going to see that what happened last year is happening this year. Positivity can't take us through the market all year. We have to look at things like affordability and can the average person in our community participate in the housing market or not? And we're going to answer that question as we keep going. Thoughts, questions, concerns, Jen?
No, I think that is really accurate. What you're saying is affordability is a big thing because it's not just the interest rate that's affecting, people's ability to maybe move forward or having them kind of like wait on the sidelines for things to change. It's a whole bunch of different things coming together. It's home prices increasing, over time. It's how home values increased over the last 4 years, and it's coupled with the interest rate where it is, and then just people's lives where they are too. They're kind of unsure because the market was so quick for so long, and now here we are, and people are just not really sure what's going to happen next. And then when you do throw kind of a promise maybe in there of, oh, we're going to lower the rate, people are like, oh, okay, well, we'll just wait for that.
Yeah. But we also have to ask ourselves this question, to what? Lower to what? There were a lot of rate increases, a lot more than 3 or 6, right? We're not going to get back to the COVID days of rates or the Great Recession days of rates, which are the 3s. Lots of people think maybe we'll get to the 5s again someday, and that'd be great. But when we look at where we are today, we're not that much higher than where people have borrowed money as an average. And it's not the government's responsibility to have rates where we can experience appreciation. We want to make sure we don't have the inflation that we're having, which hurts everybody in all sorts of areas. So the Portland housing market has been very, very resilient, but we could be going into a period because of higher interest rates, because of affordability, where we just have less people buying and selling. And we're going to talk about that when we get to pending sales. So this is something I think about a lot, that we're really starting to have some evidence of with higher interest rates. So we'll talk about that. So let's look at new listings year to date. Do you want to read the little new listing residential highlight, Jen?
Yeah. Let me see here. New listings increased, it looks like 17%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. From April 2023. So that sounds like a lot. A 17% increase is a lot, right? And then they, increased 28% from the last month, March 2024.
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? Because we do have more homes coming to the market. If we zoom out, because I like zooming out, if we look at the last 5 years, this was the second lowest number of total new listings coming to the market. Year to date, 9,677 homes have listed for sale in the Portland metro area. Last year, 9,086. But let's look at what 2021 and 2022 looked like. 2021, 12,778. 2022, 12,270. So when we look at new listings, sellers need to know that competition is coming to the market. That is more likely you are going to be competing with similar product. But if you're a home buyer, you also have to recognize, if we zoom way, way out, we still have about a 30-year low of new listings coming to the market. Great inventory is rare. Yeah. If you want to find a special home, this is for buyers and sellers, it's rare.
Yeah.
The historically low number of new listings coming to the market is basically fighting with that affordability. That's what's keeping stability and resiliency in the housing market. So, we'll talk a lot about affordability today because, there's this Are we in a robust housing market? What's it mean for a housing market to be robust? What's it mean for a housing market to be resilient? What we've experienced from a resiliency standpoint, we just talked about what's happening with average sales price. We are starting to see things normalize, maybe not the rate of appreciation we're used to because of low inventory. That's resiliency, right? In the face of the most expensive time ever to buy a home.
Yeah.
So, new listings, we know they are coming. Today, when I looked at HillshireRealtyGroup.com, great place to look at homes if you guys are in the market to be a home buyer. But one of my favorite things is just looking at the number of homes available. We have a counter on the front page of our website, and there's about 4,000 homes coming to the market, or on the market right now. Last month, Jen just said we had 3,120 homes come to the market. Well, this is a good transition to pending sales because January through the end of April, there were 7,355 pending sales. Now, in 4 months, we didn't even average 2,000 pending sales per month. That is not a robust housing market.
No.
I would look at a robust housing market by saying, how many people can participate in the market? Let's go to 2021, unicorn year, right? 2021, best housing market ever, right? For people participating in it. By this time, we had 11,249 pending sales. So we've seen a significant decrease. If we go to 2020, we're on lockdown. It's COVID. People can't leave their house. We're scared. I'm like, Jen, please come to the office and work with me. We had 8,835 pending sales. So we have experienced the lowest number of pending sales year to date in the last 5 years. And I didn't go back and get really geeky and look at the last 30 years. What I can tell you is one of the lowest.
Yeah.
And that's because of affordability. So it's hard for me to go, oh my gosh, the real estate market's so robust, it's so hot, when it's so challenging for people to participate in it.
Yeah.
And as someone who homeownership has changed my life through the equity I've built and the things that equity has been able to help me do with my family, I want as many people as possible to be able to participate in the housing market. So this is something I think about a lot. It's like, what is it going to take for more people to participate? We have to get affordability. And is that slight price compression with rates coming down? Is it just rates? There's such a scarcity in homes. It's unlikely we're going to see values really, really pull back. But we need to see some rate relief, or we're going to experience a housing market that has fewer home sales. That is just the reality of the market.
Yeah.
So that was a lot, Jen, if you want to help me unpack it.
Yeah, no, I think that there's a lot of buyers that are feeling kind of exactly what you're saying here, where the inventory's been low. They're kind of waiting for, maybe a certain type of house to kind of come onto the market to get them to, move forward, maybe like move forward and not re-sign their leases, or move forward and decide to actually put their house up for sale. But when there is such low inventory, kind of like we've had, where it really hasn't felt like there's many choices, especially last year, it becomes, how long do you wait before you kind of have to decide to just move forward and start going and looking at these houses instead of just looking at them online, and really start to get your feet into the market and make this decision to make the change.
Yeah, it's this big thing we talk about all the time, which is people's plans generally don't change. They just get delayed.
Yeah.
And they can only be delayed for so long. I was meeting with one of my clients yesterday who's a financial advisor, and we were talking about how he has a lot more clients getting into the market. And I go, well, baby boomers? And he goes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And why are baby boomers starting to move into the market? Because they're ready for that one level house. They've been planning on moving. They have the equity. They've been there for a long time, right? That is a very common move that we're seeing right now. So like a call to action to everyone with like a great one level house that might be looking at upsizing, it is a good time for those properties, like we're really seeing that. That's where you're seeing a lot of multiple offer situations is in a 1,500 square foot to 2,000 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single level home that's been nicely updated, right?
Yeah.
Like that is a very desirable property right now that's hard to find.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm with you, Jen. Like people, they've been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and they have to start moving forward. But again, interest rates are holding a lot of people back from the ability to participate in this housing market. So, we do have buyers buying and buyers buying quickly in this market, right? I mean, we've all heard the multiple offer situation stories. Every real estate professional in the market has worked with a qualified buyer who's had a hard time finding a home. And at the same time, versus last April, average days on market is up 36 days in Portland. So it's not like super robust. Going back, pending sales is that forward-looking indicator of what's happening. How many people are buying is such an important thing to look at, especially against how many people are selling. We had 3,120 listings come to the market last month. We've only had a little bit over 7,000 pending sales all year. A big thing to think about if you're thinking about selling your home. Let's move to closed sales. Closed sales last month, there were 1,883, which is a 10% increase from the month before. That's going to be the big thing we hear highlighted. But again, zoom out, right? Year to date, how many closed sales have we had in the Portland metro area? 6,012. Weren't we just talking about how 3,000 listings came to the market last month? But we're 4 months into the year. We've had 6,012 properties close. Are we in a robust housing market or not? And I'm not trying to pour negativity or salt on all over everything, but we have to be pragmatic about the market we're going into. If you're a home seller, there is an incredibly large chance of having success in this market based on 30-year low of great listings coming to the market. You also have to acknowledge you're putting your home on the market, one of the most challenging housing markets that we've seen in the past decade. Participation in the market by home buyers is what moves sellers out of their homes. And we have a low of people buying. So we have a low in closed sales. Thoughts, Jen?
I just think that this is important, kind of like for sellers to just know and recognize. I think that a lot of times, like sellers are stuck, it feels like kind of between two places right now. We're thinking that their house is going to sell potentially really fast, or like thinking that this may not happen and then it may not sell and it may, take a really long time. And so it's just really kind of, if you're a seller, you really need to kind of like see this big picture of what's going on, know what's happening in the last month or two, but really just kind of take a big look and just be prepared and, make sure that you're doing all the right things, coming to the market really strong, and not thinking that nothing is going to sell or you're not going to find a new home, because there is actually a lot out there, a lot more than there was last year. And it feels like that even, it feels like there is more inventory than last year. It still is a low, but it's good to have this feeling of seeing at least more homes available, and life is moving for people, they, like you said, they can only wait for so long. And so it's good to see that things are kind of moving, because it was, I think last year, a lot of people wondering like, what's going to happen next year?
Yeah. And the reality is there are more homes on the market, and homes are staying on the market longer than they were before. And that is nice. And that is a more balanced real estate market. What they always say is like, 0 to 6 months is a seller's market. Well, I don't know. We averaged 2 months of inventory last year, and we still had home values decline, and that shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Right. I think how we should define a buyer or seller's market is the pace of sales. How quickly, I mean, that's what inventory is, but it's like we are so used to homes being on the market in 2 weeks or less from the last 5 years that's where we see appreciation. And then once we got to 2 months on the market, 3 months on the market, that's where we started seeing depreciation. And we started seeing a lot of price reductions in our marketplace, which again, if you're a home buyer, that should be the marketplace you want to participate in. The challenge is these high interest rates, which, by the way, we're not going to talk about it here, but there are lots of ways to get that payment down. So if someone is going, what are my options to go from 7% to 6% on rate or 5.5%? Shoot us a message and we'll get you in touch with our lender. And we could talk about those strategies and how we can negotiate on your behalf to get you there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about another big thing on this, which is there are changes coming to the ways that we work with home buyers. And everyone goes, oh gosh, are you guys going away? Is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? Here's something that I want to talk about real quick. And Jen, you can ask me questions or we can participate in this in the dialogue, whatever you want to do. There are 3 ways that people buy and sell real estate, not in this country, but in the world, that are really popular. One is for sale by owner, right? That is a route people have always had the option to take. What we know from research and studies, few people take that option because on average, homes sell for more money when listed with the realtor. I'd say they just sell for more money when you properly expose a property to the marketplace. When you're for sale by owner, that's a challenge. And when you have 2 people that maybe don't have experience working a very expensive transaction, sometimes it doesn't work out very well. Now, with that being said, there are people that can complete that transaction, no problem. They'll be fine. Someone's probably going to leave a comment about how I'm such a horrible person for talking about for sale by owners. Hey, if you can do a deal on your own, do a deal on your own. In a lot of the world, there's a listing agent. There's no buyer's agent. There's no reciprocity. There's no companies talking to each other. There's no freedom of data. That's a world that people seemingly want to move to. A lot of people will not like that because we can go backwards on data. Everyone's going to go, oh, Zillow could never go away. People thought the same thing about AOL. And now if someone has an @AOL email address, you kind of think they're a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Right? Companies change. Not all laws that pass are positive. In America and Canada, in North America, we do have a more expensive real estate transaction. Let's just get that out of the way. It is more expensive than for sale by owner. It is more expensive than some of the transactions you see around the world. It's the most efficient. It's the most transparent, right? It probably has the most equality and equity, in a transaction. It's important for people to have representation in their most, or we'll say maybe not their most important transaction. This might not be their most important, but probably in their largest financial transaction they ever do. Here's the good thing that I see coming out of this. People deserve to have transparency in fees. The bad thing is some people may choose to do it on their own that shouldn't. Now, the people that can do it on their own already and, seemingly do a good job probably already are because they've always had that opportunity. Now, I'm someone that really believes in what I do. And I would say most people I've worked with have found value in what we do. And I see value in my peers. This isn't a pitch to try to keep commissions high. This is a pitch to really understand what you're getting from a real estate agent if you're looking at buying or selling a home. If you're a seller, let's look at the professional home sellers in the market, the home builders. Some offer compensation to a buyer's agent. Some offer a little bit. Some offer none. Mm-hmm. It depends on the product they have. It's not just like things go away. Hey, by the way, with commissions becoming negotiable, some sellers need to know you might actually end up paying more commission without having a preset commission. So, I think there's a big misunderstanding. And I don't think, even as a real estate community, I don't even think we all know what the rules are going to be or what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
But here's what I do know. The state of Oregon does not care if we negotiate compensation at multiple points throughout a transaction. It's not customary. Here's also what I know. No one's willing to work for free. So some people might go at it on their own, and that's fine. There is something that's really interesting, though, which is that there's lots of laws being passed all over the country that says if you want to go look at a house, you have to have an agreement signed with a licensed real estate agent with a dollar amount in which that agent would earn to take you into a home. Now, I think sellers deserve to only have pre-qualified buyers walking through their house. I think that's going to be a good consequence of this. But if you're a home buyer, if your dream home comes to the market and you're not working with somebody, seemingly it could be a little bit more difficult to access that property moving forward. So linking up with a professional real estate agent in advance of your dream home coming to the market could be a really good thing to do. Did I leave anything out, Jen?
No, I think that was everything. I do. I think it's a lot. I think it's going to be a little bit different if you've been a buyer or a seller before. Things are going to feel a little bit different and look a little bit different, but ultimately it's going to be that we all just have to figure out how to work with the new parameters that we have, and honestly just how to best represent, each client that you have, and how buyers can continue to have representation if they want it. And we're just going to have to figure out how to, work through that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's finish off by giving advice to both buyers and sellers. Let's start with sellers. So Jen, if you had just like one little piece of advice that you would give to a home seller thinking about coming to the market this year, what would it be, knowing what we know today?
I think that coming to the market right now, honestly, it's just being prepared. And I said this, I think last time that we talked, by being prepared, it's knowing what's been going on in the market, pricing your home right, and coming out really strong with your marketing. Those, I think, are really big things right now, is coming out really strong with your marketing and being priced appropriately for where the market is and for what your home value is. That's always going to be my advice to sellers that I'm meeting with right now. It's that is our game plan. We're setting ourselves up for success. We're taking photos early. Maybe if you have a really nice view and you're not listing until the fall, we're talking about how we might stage your house, whether you're going to be living there or not, to make it look as great as possible so that we come out really strong when we do come out. And we don't think like, oh man, I wish we would have done X, Y, or Z. And then just keeping our eye on what's going on so that we know where we want to be priced and why. And it's not like, oh, I wish we would have done this. So being prepared, coming out strong, those are the big things that I think sellers should do.
Yeah. And what I heard there is you have one chance to make a great first impression.
Yeah.
So put in the time to make a great first impression. My advice would be similar. Like, because I'm a kind of a dork and I'm into the numbers, there's 4,013 homes available right now, active listings. But we were just talking about, there have been just over 7,000 pending sales all year. Last month, there were barely over 2,000 pending sales. So let's just call it what it is. There's about 2 homes on the market today for every buyer buying. And if history repeats itself like we had last year, we're going into the time of year where we're going to start seeing more homes come to the market, but a finite amount of buyers buying, because we're not going to have 26, 27, 28,000 pending sales this year. Because of interest rates, we're going to have somewhere closer to 20,000. But we're coming into the time of year that 3,000, 3,500, 4,000 new listings come to the market. So going off what Jen said, being prepared to make a great first impression, being educated. Hey, let's acknowledge that the market hasn't totally pulled back, but it also hasn't totally appreciated.
Yeah.
You're not going to get $50,000 more than your neighbor that was nicer than you. This is the marketplace where if your neighbor is nicer than you, you're going to get less. It's just the reality of the market. So to Jen's point, make a great first impression and be educated on what's actually happening in the market. Buyers, what advice would you give to buyers?
For buyers, I really like the team up, and be talking with your lender, your mortgage broker, keep up on where the rates are, find out what it is that your affordability is so we know where we need to be looking. And then we're going to continue to look at properties, because I'm finding more and more right now, especially, that buyers right now, when they're seeing the properties that they want, they're going for them rather than waiting, which is what it felt like not that long ago, waiting and seeing what happens. It does feel like when buyers are finding the right property, they feel a lot more ready right now to be moving forward and, put together an offer and see if we can come together on that. That's what I'm seeing with buyers. And I think that that's where the market is right now. Just be ready, have been looking at things, and if you do find the right property, it's moving forward on it if it feels like the right thing to do.
Yeah. Look, my advice to buyers would be to really understand what's happening so you don't just buy into the hype.
Yeah.
Right? We get accused as real estate professionals of being nothing but positive about buying houses. Here's the reality. Anyone who buys a house 10 years ago feels like a genius today.
Yeah.
That is just the truth. Stay in a house for 7 to 10 years, you are going to feel so smart. But no one wants to overpay.
Yeah.
Right? So look at where things are. This is such a highly emotional transaction. Make sure you work with someone that can curb things a little bit. Like, I had a client last week where they were just, they just wanted a house. And they're like, should we just pay more? Should we just pay more than the list price? And I'm like, of course you shouldn't. Because we don't need to. We don't need to do these things that you're suggesting just because you saw someone's Instagram reel that says maybe you needed to. And it's funny, what they wanted to offer over is more than I'm earning. Oh, and by the way, we negotiated some more for repairs. So be educated on what's going on. One of the biggest truisms that I've ever experienced in doing this for almost 20 years is if I find you one house you love, I'm going to find you another.
Yeah.
Like, that's always the case. Don't let logic fly out the window because emotions get high. You should work with a real estate professional that's going to keep you level.
My first thought when you said that is, that's why we're here. We're here to help you with that.
Yeah, let us keep you level. Because even if you're willing to pay more, it doesn't mean that you should.
Doesn't mean that you
just because someone else is willing to pay more doesn't mean that you should. So as buyers, as you navigate this market, hey, there's 2 homes on the market for every buyer. Some deals out there you can't negotiate on. Some you can negotiate hard. Do you know the difference? Does the agent you're considering working with know the difference? That is, be a discerning buyer. Be a discerning buyer. Be a discerning buyer. Understand the marketplace that you're in. So with that being said, if you have questions about your unique particular situation, that's the beauty of real estate. I have probably a little bit of ADHD, right? Let's be honest. Probably have a little bit. So what's so great about this business? It is constantly changing. People's circumstances are different, right? That's what I love, is helping people. I know Jen is the same way. If we can help you, email us, hello@hillshirerealtygroup.com. You're doing something today, you're doing something next year, you're doing something a couple years from now. Doesn't matter to us. We'd be happy to keep you updated and informed on what's going on in the real estate market as it pertains to your goals. If you know someone needs to see this video, shoot it off, like and subscribe. If you hate it, just block the channel and don't come back and watch it. Really easy. See you next time.